Well, we would normally be farming about 14,000 acres, and we're down to about 4,500 acres, and that's because we did have some wells, and we did save some water last year.
John Harris owns and runs one of the biggest farms in California. Before the recent water restrictions, these fields were chock full. Thousands of workers harvesting thousands of acres in farm after farm, just as it has been every year since the irrigation projects of the 1930s. And John Harris's father, who first tilled this soil in 1937, became one of the original titans of the San Joaquin Valley.
But looking forward, we're at zero this year, and there's not much hope for next year.
Normally, more than 200 billion gallons of water are diverted annually from the San Joaquin River to irrigate the rich but dry soil of the Central Valley. The river, however, is home to an endangered 2-inch-long carnivorous fish called the Delta smelt. The Endangered Species Act requires California to do what it can to protect the smelt. That has meant a 2/3 water reduction last summer and zero allocation this year, which has taken away the one job left in these parts.
At one point, we had a permanent employees of almost 200 people, and we're down to about 20 people now. We just had to drastically reduce our staff, which is really sad because a lot of the people have been here for 20, 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden they don't have a job anymore.
There's still some work to be had, ripping up now useless irrigation lines, packaging the reduced yield of asparagus. But these workers cost Harris Farms no small sum. The pay's not great, but some of them actually live on the farm, for now.
We have about 70 houses right here on our farm, so a lot of them aren't working right now, but they're here. That's the problem, because there's nothing else for them to do here, so we're trying to, people are kind of hanging on.
And the story's the same all across the region.
Behind us is our fleet of cotton module builders that build the bales of cotton to be hauled to the gin, to be ginned. This year the equipment's going to sit idle. None of this equipment will move at all this year.
Cotton harvester Ryan Ferguson feels it particularly deeply because his business, the Ferguson Farming Company, was started by an Okie fleeing the 1930s Dust Bowl who made good in Huron. These photos show what life was like in better times. 2 years ago, they harvested around 13,000 acres of cotton.
We've had people, prospective employees coming by. Some have been in construction, as well as truck drivers coming by looking for work, as well as employees that were capable of, running computer systems on tractors that are having to be demoted down to more labor-intensive work, just hand labor. There's just no jobs in the ag community because of the lack of water.
It's personal, too.
It's devastating. It's, wake up in the night thinking about how we're going to keep all of our employees going and keep the ranch going. And it's a hard thought to bear. My son comes out to the ranch and I watch him walking around out in the dirt and picking up dirt. It's a scary thought to think that he might not be able to enjoy the same things that I've been able to do, farming and being in the custom harvesting business.
Chief Steenport also comes from a family that found its way to California in hopes of working its way up from the fields.
My parents are immigrants. My mom is Filipino. The first farm workers in California were Filipinos. I don't know if you know that, but Filipinos came here first, mostly after World War II. A lot of them were repatriated to the United States.
How are you? You staying out of trouble?
And he himself worked in greenhouses as a child.
Okay, be good.
Seeing his own family story in that of the community he now serves is part of the reason he took on a tough job in a tough place.
And you think this is like out of Mayberry or something. It would be a lot easier just to put in 8 to the gate, and not care. But that's not the way I'm wired. So,
my reputation of one as being a problem solver and a fix-it person. So they said, "Can you fix it?" said, yeah.
And there was a lot to fix.
This place was known as Knife Fight City in the 40s and the 50s, and it was quite a wild place. Very, high murder rate, a lot of bars. You name it, the things you don't want in the city, we had it.
But Chief Steenport says good policing has paid off in recent years.
In 3 years, almost a 70% reduction in major crime. I have people here that have been living there 50 years and said they've never seen it as quiet and clean. And to somebody just driving through, they may say, God, this is a rough little town, but you should have seen it 3-4 years ago. So we're getting better. The sad, almost heartbreaking part is right when we need the economy to be good. We have a lot of people looking at, building and developing without destroying the agriculture. And right when we need it for good times to be here, we're in the middle of, almost a depression.
Good times are far from rolling in downtown Huron.
In most places, recycling is something to do to be touchy-feely and save the earth. Here, a lot of these families and stuff live off of it. They fight over what's in the dumpster. ¿Qué onda? I wasn't really happy about putting a C-train, a container in here, but these folks, that's how they're making their money. That's how they're feeding their kids in some of these cases. This is their work.
Just across the street from the community center, where buses come to pick up the lucky few for what field work remains, a line forms around the building at Westside Family Preservation. It's a food giveaway, here in the region that produces 25% of America's produce. Doors open at 1 in the afternoon, but in these desperate times,
there was people already since 8 o'clock in the morning. They bring their chair and they just sit there until we give them tickets for the food. Sí, dígame.
Amparo Yebra is the director here, and she says she's never seen anything like it. They're not equipped for this sort of need. The center is not a food bank. Once a month, the county comes around and drops off some frozen chickens and beans. 1 box is enough for a couple of days.
Every month we serve more than 400 families a month, but I seen the list and it's almost getting to 600.
Today they were caught by surprise.
We ran out of bags, so we were having a tough time, and I know a lot of the women went into to their homes and bought some plastic bags. This is the first time. Yeah, this is the first time.
O sea, empecé a trabajar en la construcción, pero en ese tiempo estaba mejor el trabajo, más o menos no.
One of the thousands who suffered is Carlos Esquivel.
Voy he ido al Home Depot también a esperar afuera a ver si alguien pues me lleva pues a trabajar, pero nadie quiere trabajar ya, nadie quiere llevarse a uno a trabajar.
For generations, work in these fertile fields has been a way to get a foothold on the economic ladder. That connection to American history has attracted attention 2,500 miles away in Washington, D.C. Fish and farmer alike have been hot topics of conversation, and farm owners in the Central Valley are pushing for a temporary waiver of the Endangered Species Act. They estimate that 80,000 jobs could be lost in the region if irrigated farming and the businesses that support it are cut off.
Literally thousands, the estimate is 80,000 plus people are going to be unemployed. That's going to cause a domino effect on all the related industries. You have towns here that are faced seriously, if things don't get better, that are going to cease to exist. They will unincorporate it. They will become townships. They will become spots on a historical map.
Police Chief Frank Steenport and the town he's struggling to preserve, Huron, California. Environmental groups say that without radical reductions in how much water is diverted from California's rivers, not only the delta smelt, but whole ecosystems risk disappearing forever, also becoming spots on a historical map. Pretty soon, something's got to give.